We need it. Oxygen is why we breathe.
Hey everyone, this is Loralyn Mears. Welcome back to the Grit Daily podcast. This is season 3, now called The Grit Files. And of course, we want you to follow us on social media, not just Grit Daily, but me, Loralyn, and subscribe to the podcast, Apple, Spotify. We are everywhere that content is streamed. So when we talk about grit, one of the things that we usually get focused on is, well, okay, you're a startup founder. You got to dig in. You got to figure it out. You've got to develop resilience and go through all of the hurdles. Well, this is grit coming to us from a different form. And it's a very special connection that I have with this guest because we are sisters of a sisterhood that most people don't want to be in. It is the pink ribbon sisterhood. It is the breast cancer sisterhood. And Abby Match, who is our guest today, was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. This is extremely challenging to treat. And there's a whole litany around genetic testing to try to make this more predictable for how these cancer genes are going to be transmitted from one generation to the next. If that's not enough to say, wow, this gal's got grit, her father was diagnosed with prostate cancer on the same day that she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was shortly after her mother had had a preventative mastectomy. If you want grit, this is the Grit Girl. Hello, Abby.
Hi, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and I'm honored to be here.
Well, you're a new young mother, and you've just experienced so much. Why don't we just get things started with how do you dig in and develop that grit factor?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was strong and resilient before my diagnosis, but wow. I mean, cancer is not a gift, but it is an opportunity to get healthy and learn all about it. And that's this August 5th, 2020, the start of my grit, the start of the whole journey. I was diagnosed. I got a call that I was indeed triple negative with a unknown genetic mutation at the time, but after some scans to determine what my staging was with breast cancer and being young, as you said, 35 years of age, Ashkenazi Jewish descent, they were thinking that I likely was a carrier of the BRCA1 mutation. So a few months after my breast cancer diagnosis, I found out that was responsible for my diagnosis. And no known history of breast cancer in my family. So this is where things get really interesting with my story, and where my passion and my grit really is for young women, and specifically, around the Jewish population, and how I can help others.
Because BRCA1 changes things with respect to the hereditary passage of the genes that are likely to cause cancer. In fact, a 50% chance, correct?
Right. So, yeah. So not having a family history was shocking to me when I got diagnosed. But then when I learned from my genetic counselor, yes, if you are a carrier, you have a 50 to 80% chance of developing breast cancer in your lifetime. And I have a 50% chance of passing that down to my daughter. So this is maddening to me. Why didn't somebody in all of my years of seeing a gynecologist or a primary physician say, oh, listen, you've checked the box for Ashkenazi Jewish descent. We should offer you genetic testing. Not one provider had ever said that to me. I look at my daughter and I think there better be a cure for breast cancer, and there better be more for this BRCA1 and 2 mutation by the time she's 18 of age. The thing here is, even in all of my advocacy work that I've done since my time of diagnosis, I'm still talking to women who are Jewish, of Ashkenazi Jewish descent, and they're being denied by their doctors to get a script for genetic testing because they have no family history. The CDC guidelines are telling us that if you have a first and a second degree relative with breast cancer, get screened. Being Jewish is enough. Yes, there are women that even aren't of Ashkenazi Jewish descent who could be a carrier, and I don't want to dismiss that. But in terms of my story and the susceptibility of having this gene is so high in our community, and this is why I started volunteering for a nonprofit like JScreen, who is allowing people to come to them to get to obtain a home screening kit where they can swab their cheek, send it back, see if they carry the BRCA mutation or other cancer susceptibility genes, have a telehealth conversation with a genetic counselor who's going to give you that negative or positive result if you're a carrier of a mutation related to breast cancer or other cancers. And they don't want anyone to be denied access to a kit. They will help anyone who comes to them. And that is unique. And I find that to be just remarkable. And they're just so passionate about helping others. So my advocacy is very deep, but that is one nonprofit that I really try to volunteer with to help spread awareness and get women and men, because men can have this mutation, but get people access and know that it's available, even if your doctor says no. I mean, we thought for sure he was the carrier, but no, my dad and I just happened to get cancer on a diagnosis on the same day. So, we were just thrown for a loop here, and it was a wake-up call. And I just feel like my story and my journey has a purpose, and it is to get out there and help other people.
So what is a diagnosis like that, like really a double diagnosis due to a family? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so here we are, the height of the pandemic. And I'm outside of Philadelphia, and my dad is in Harrisburg and my mom is in Sarasota. And I have a brother who also lives right nearby me. So an older brother. So yeah, we were already apart because of quarantining and, just distance wise. So that was there. And then getting a diagnosis was really devastating because you hope to have your parents there when you're going through a difficult time. And then my dad had to, of course, to no fault of his, he had to take care of himself. He was treated right away for his prostate cancer. My mom necessarily couldn't get to me because of COVID, and she needed to do some preventative measures herself. So after finding out that she was a carrier, she wanted to get scans to make sure she wasn't carrying cancer, because, breast cancer can be silent for a while. So she was doing scans to make sure she was clean, and thank goodness she was. And then it was recommended that she'd either do screening every 6 months, alternating between an MRI and a mammogram, or go for a preventative bilateral mastectomy. So my mom chose to do that. I learned to deal with everything pretty much on my own. My husband was fantastic. My mother-in-law was here most of the time. But remember, this was the height of the pandemic. I could not bring in anyone to appointments. I could not bring anyone into chemotherapy, to surgery. It was all drop off, curbside. I did it physically on my own. And that's all I knew.
What did you tell yourself when you were going through treatments?
I started working with a functional medicine doctor during midway through my chemotherapy, and hearing how other people were going through it, and hearing some of the mantras that she was telling us that we could tell ourselves. I was using a lot of affirmations and just in my head telling myself, I was the exception. I am not my thoughts. And really trying to do a lot of mindfulness, which was very, very hard for me. I felt like every time I tuned into that, I would be a basket case. I couldn't stop crying. And I remember saying to her, like, I can't meditate. I can't do mindfulness. All I do is cry. And she's like, well, then you're doing the right thing. That's okay. You need to be in touch with your emotions and just start at 5 minutes and build up. And I started doing that, and it took me to a vulnerable place, but I learned to accept it. And then I also started doing a lot of journaling, whether it was at chemo or it was right before bed, and learning to keep a journal and writing three notes of what I was grateful for that day. So a gratitude journal. And it could have been something as simple as the sun shining, to eating my favorite food, whatever it was, I was writing it down. And that really, really helped. It was beautiful. And that changed. I mean, other than, my community, which was fantastic, and the people I had in my life and my medical team, I can't say enough about them, but that mental piece was huge.
Have you kept up with the meditation and a gratitude journal?
Absolutely. So the gratitude journal sometimes does go on my phone in my notes section if I haven't done it or I don't have a piece of paper down, or if I can just say it in my mind, I think that counts. So that's been life-changing.
Let's talk about the fear monster.
Yeah.
Because it's the thing that it's always there.
Yep.
It's always lurking when you're a cancer survivor. You're always waiting for that knock, knock. It's time to tap you on the shoulder again.
Yep.
And like I said, I've gone through it now for 15 years, trying to keep the fear monster at bay. And once a year or every 6 months when I get a mammogram, I sit there and say, okay, today's your day, fear monster. You get a spike and you get to be the asshole and take over my day and my thoughts and my feelings. But that's it. At the end of the day, you're going back to maintenance mode. I'm chucking you back in the corner in the dark. How do you deal with the fear monster?
Yes. So I experience the fear monster with every little ache I get. And I am learning that I need to say it out loud. So I say to my husband, I'm being irrational right now. I have like this little pain in my shoulder. And we're like, okay, I had surgery in my left armpit to remove 22 lymph nodes and a tumor, right? I had radiation to that area. I had reconstruction done. I also exercise every day. Like, let's put things into perspective here. So talking about it out loud with somebody helps, and instead of keeping it in. I don't keep anything in. It's just not healthy. So reaching out to other women, as you said, this pink sisterhood, that, a club you never wanted to be a part of, but you are. And then it's this beautiful group of badass women.
What have you learned about yourself through this journey?
Yeah, I mean, that whole cliche of you don't know how strong you are until being strong is the only choice you have. Yeah, that's true. It's so cheesy and so cliche, and you see it all over. But I always believed that I would be okay. And I'm not sure I believed in a higher power before my diagnosis. And I'm not sure exactly what I do believe in, but I can say I believe in miracles, and you should always believe in a miracle.
And as far as grit goes, one of the things that I've seen is when people are really dialed into their why, right? As Simon Sinek says, or you have purpose now. Your purpose is advocating for access to genetic screening and letting people know, particularly Ashkenazi members of the community, women and men, that they're at a higher risk and that they should challenge their healthcare providers to get access to that testing. Do you think that that's a key part of your resilience? Is that purpose you now have?
Yes, 100%. I know that this has been around, and we have Angelina Jolie, who came out with saying she was going to get a bilateral mastectomy, and we have people in our world who are big figures and role models who talk about this. But my purpose is to reach these young individuals, so there is not another Abby Match who has to go through this ordeal and watch their child possibly go through it. I always say, I understand how my mom must have felt watching me go through it, because I'm a parent too. Knowledge is power. My mom, thank God, is healthy. I wasn't so lucky to receive this mutation, but what I'm going to do with it is a beautiful thing. This is something to think about. Advocate for yourself. Don't settle for hearing, no, you don't need a test, or you were denied from your insurance. Don't stop there, because that is a business, and you are important and you deserve better. So if you want that test, reach out to somebody else. Don't stop because of the price tag. Somebody will help you. And that is where JScreen, I'm going to say it again, is a beautiful program, because they don't want someone to stop because of access. That is my soapbox, that, we need to do better.
Okay, Abby. It's all about, like they say, right? Preventive medicine. An ounce of prevention is a pound of cure. And this country has a long ways to go to invert that relationship of treating the sick once we're sick versus starting to look at the potential of us becoming sick and starting to intervene early. So we appreciate your message of advocacy for that. And because we want to end on a high and light note, I'm going to ask you a silly little question, but it is our signature question. You're a gritty gal. You've gone through just a whole hell of a lot. And obviously we want you to have continued health and success in your advocacy and in your journey towards wellness. But we want to take a peek into your closet. And if we looked into your closet, describe a pair of shoes, boots, whatever it is that personifies who you are, and tell us about that pair of footwear and why that represents your personality, your grit, who you are. Talk to us.
All right. You are going to find leopard throughout my entire closet, whether it's on a pair of shoes, it's on a hat, it's on a bralette, it's on a shirt. Leopard, leopard, leopard is my favorite color, I say. And I think that is, and it always has been, but more so than ever. And I think it's because I am fierce, and I'll never, ever, ever forget being at radiation and looking at myself in the reflection and seeing leopard prints all over my body. And I said, guys, did anyone ever say that they look like a leopard during radiation? I'm like, what are you talking about? And I said, I called them over. For whatever reason, it gives you these leopard marks. And I remember I made them take a picture of me. I was like, this is totally my color. So that is a fun fact about me. And again, that was another sign that I'm a force to be reckoned with. And it's just call me a leopard. I don't know, but that's my color.
Fantastic. Well, Abby, we wish you just tremendous, tremendous success. Keep getting your message out there. And we're so glad that you let the Grit Daily Grit Files podcast be a part of your story, so that we can help amplify your message and let other people know that if you want to get screened, there is a way. Go find a way. Enroll in a clinical trial. Talk to your healthcare professionals. Talk to your doctors. Look up JScreen. Look up all of these nonprofit groups who are advocating for women and men who might be at risk. Check them out.
Absolutely. Thank you so, so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Abby. Don't forget to follow Grit Daily News as well as me, your host, Loralyn Mears, everywhere on social media. And how about throwing 4 or 5 stars our way if you're listening to Apple or Spotify? Subscribe to our show. And how about that fantastic intro by Touch Circle?